So, Donald Trump threatened to economically destroy 8 of America's closest allies unless they help him steal Greenland. Not negotiate for Greenland, not partner on Arctic security, steal it. And look, when the President of the United States starts announcing tariffs on the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and 5 other NATO countries because they won't help him forcibly annex Allied territory, we've officially hit a new level of madness that most Americans didn't even think was possible, even for Trump. So yesterday on January 17th, Trump posted on Truth Social that he's slapping a 10% tariff on Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland, starting February 1st, and then cranking it up to 25% by June 1st. And his reason for doing this? Apparently these NATO allies sent small military contingents to Greenland for training exercises, and they refused to support Trump's plan to take over the Arctic island, which is a pretty big deal, because what Trump is doing here is straight up economic coercion. He's basically weaponizing tariffs against our closest military allies to force them to help him violate international law and torpedo the NATO alliance that's kept peace in Europe for 76 years. So let me walk you through exactly what happened, why Trump's so-called legal justification is completely made up, and how even Republican senators are now warning this could blow up NATO and hand Putin a huge win. Here's what Trump posted on Truth Social Saturday. Quote, "We have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs or any other forms of remuneration. Now, after centuries, it is time for Denmark to give back. World peace is at stake. Starting on February 1st, 2026, all of the above-mentioned countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. On June 1st, 2026, the tariff will be increased to 25%. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland." Unquote. Translation? Give me Greenland or I'll economically punish you until you do. By the way, these aren't random countries. These are 8 NATO members. You know, the alliance where an attack on one is an attack on all? The alliance that Trump is now attacking. And just to be clear about Trump's justification, here's what he claimed. Quote, "China and Russia want Greenland, and there is not a thing that Denmark can do about it. They currently have 2 dogsleds as protection, one added recently. Only the United States of America, under President Donald J. Trump, can play in this game, and very successfully, at that." Unquote. I'm sorry, but did the President of the United States just claim that Denmark's military consists of 2 dogsleds? Denmark is a NATO ally with modern military capabilities, and they literally host U.S. military bases already, including in Greenland. But sure, dogsleds. The same day Trump announced these tariffs, thousands of Greenlanders and Danes marched in the freezing cold in Nuuk. Nearly a third of the island's entire population of 56,000 turned out waving signs that said, "Hands off Greenland, Yankee Go Home, and Greenland is already great." One 21-year-old protester, Malik Dalarup-Scheibel, told the Associated Press after learning about the tariffs.
A very big bully. He does not care of anything. His way of saying things are just so specific and so disrespectful and hateful that it's just hurting everybody around him.
Think about that. Greenlanders don't want to be part of the United States. Denmark doesn't want to sell Greenland. And Trump's response is to economically punish them and their European allies until they comply. That's not negotiation. That's extortion. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but maybe there's some actual security threat that justifies this? Well, here's what a bipartisan congressional delegation, including Republican Senators Thom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski, said after they actually went to Greenland and Denmark this week.
Concrete conversations with parliamentary leaders, members of the cabinet, and the Prime Minister, both Danish and Greenlandic. We had a chance to discuss the current moment and how we move forward in a constructive way. A few simple observations. There are no pressing security threats to Greenland, but we share real concern about Arctic security going forward. As the climate changes, as the sea ice retreats, as shipping routes change.
So according to actual senators who went there and assessed the situation, no threat. But let's look at what Trump's White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, said to justify this on Fox News.
The president's right. It is vital. The president's also right that China and Russia have interest in Greenland. Denmark has not particularly treated the people of Greenland well. it could be one of the wealthiest nations, according to everything I've read, in terms of their natural resources that are not being tapped into. Looks to me like Donald Trump's about to make the art of the deal real for Greenland.
Well, you said it, Sean. Greenland is essential for America's national security. The new domain of international competition is going to be polar competition. That is where more and more resources are being spent by our nation's adversaries and rivals, is the ability to control movement, navigation, lanes of travel in the polar and Arctic regions. Greenland is 25% larger than Alaska. Greenland is the size of 1/4 of the continental United States. With respect to Denmark, Denmark is a tiny country with a tiny economy and a tiny military. They cannot defend Greenland. They cannot control the territory of Greenland. Under every understanding of law that has existed about territorial control for 500 years, to control a territory, you have to be able to defend a territory, improve a territory, inhabit a territory. Denmark has failed on every single one of these tests. So they want us.
In other words, according to Stephen Miller, if you can't defend your territory militarily, you don't get to keep it, which is not a law. That's not international law. That's not any law. That's literally just Stephen Miller making something up on Fox News. Here's the problem with Miller's invented legal theory. Denmark is a NATO ally. Under NATO's Article 5, if Denmark is attacked, all 31 other NATO members, including the United States, are obligated to defend them. So Miller is arguing Denmark can't defend Greenland, while simultaneously Denmark is part of a military alliance where we are required to help them defend it. It's like saying your neighbor can't protect their house, so you should be allowed to steal it, while you're literally the person they hired as security. Like, what are we even talking about here? To understand why this is completely insane from a legal perspective, here's what actual international law experts are saying. According to a legal analysis published in Just Security by defense law experts on January 15th, quote, under international law, Denmark undeniably enjoys sovereignty over Greenland. The Permanent Court of Justice confirmed this in 1933. The United States has long acknowledged Danish sovereignty over Greenland in the 1916 Secretary of State Declaration, the 1951 Defense of Greenland Agreement, and the 2004 Amendment to the Defense of Greenland Agreement. Any military operation sufficient to seize Greenland would unquestionably qualify as an armed attack for Article 5 purposes, unquote. So that confirms exactly what we're seeing here. Trump is threatening to violate international law, NATO treaties, and America's own past agreements. And it's not just legal scholars. Here's what Republican Senator Thom Tillis, who literally just visited Greenland, posted on Twitter Saturday. Quote, this response to our own allies for sending a small number of troops to Greenland for training is bad for America, bad for American businesses, and bad for America's allies. It's great for Putin, Xi, and other adversaries who want to see NATO divided. The fact that a small handful of advisors are actively pushing for coercive action to seize territory of an ally is beyond stupid. It hurts the legacy of President Trump and undercuts all the work he has done to strengthen the NATO alliance over the years, unquote. So we have a Republican senator calling Trump's own policy beyond stupid and saying it helps Putin, and Tillis isn't alone. Here's what Senators Jeanne Shaheen and Thom Tillis said in a joint bipartisan statement. Quote, there is no need or desire for a costly acquisition or hostile military takeover of Greenland when our Danish and Greenlandic allies are eager to work with us on Arctic security, critical minerals, and other priorities under the framework of long-standing treaties. Continuing down this path is bad for America, bad for American businesses, and bad for America's allies. This kind of rhetoric also further helps adversaries like Putin and Xi who want to see NATO divided, unquote. So according to legal experts, this violates international law. According to bipartisan senators who actually visited Greenland, there's no security threat and the allies want to cooperate. And according to Trump's own party members, this helps Russia and China. Now, Trump and his defenders will say, we need Greenland for the Golden Dome missile defense system. But that doesn't hold up, because the United States already has military installations in Greenland. We have a defense agreement with Denmark that allows us to operate there. We don't need to own Greenland to defend it. We're already doing that as NATO allies. They'll also claim China and Russia want to take over Greenland, except Denmark is a NATO member. If Russia or China attacked Greenland, they'd be attacking NATO, which means they'd be at war with the United States and 30 other countries. That's literally the entire point of the alliance. The threat Trump is describing is already deterred by the treaty we have. And if you're still not convinced, consider this. Trump's own justification is that Denmark is too small and weak to defend Greenland. But Trump is threatening 8 NATO countries with tariffs, including France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, which combined have larger economies than the United States and nuclear weapons. If Denmark is too weak to hold territory, how exactly are economic threats against France, Germany, and the United Kingdom going to work? These aren't dogsleds we're talking about. These are the largest military powers in Europe. The logic doesn't hold up under even basic scrutiny. And here's what gets lost in all of this. Greenlanders are real people with self-determination rights. Like, actual people. 85% of Greenlanders oppose joining the United States. This isn't about what Trump wants or what's strategically convenient. Under international law, specifically the 2009 Self-Government Act, Greenlanders have the right to self-determination as a people. And this isn't just about Greenland. This is about whether the United States can be trusted as an ally. Because if Trump can threaten tariffs on the United Kingdom, France, and Germany to force them to support stealing Allied territory, what's to stop him from threatening them over anything else? Like seriously, what ally would ever trust us again? Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has said that a U.S. military attack on Greenland would end NATO. And she's right, because NATO is based on collective defense, not collective offense against each other. So let's be clear about what just happened. Donald Trump announced economic warfare against 8 of America's closest allies, despite having no legal basis, despite bipartisan congressional opposition, despite Greenland not wanting this, in order to force a land grab that would violate international law and destroy the NATO alliance. And he's not going to stop the economic damage until Denmark surrenders territory they have every legal and moral right to keep. Trump doesn't represent American values. He doesn't represent American security interests. He represents chaos, lawlessness, and the kind of behavior we used to condemn when Putin did it. And now the whole world knows it. Before you go, before I wrap this up, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please like the video and subscribe to this channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.